Hello everybody, this is Colton. In this video I'm going to be talking a bit about rendering and color temperature and how all that stuff works together. It's probably not going to be too long of a video, I hope. Let's just go ahead and get started. So I've got these cubes drawn out here. So when it comes to rendering, I mentioned this in a previous video, the speedrunning the fundamentals video. I talk all about rendering and primitive forms and stuff, but in this video I'm sort of going to talk more about rendering and color temperature and how color temperature changes with light and shadow and the color of light sources and stuff. So there's sort of a rule of thumb. If you have a warm light, you're going to have a cool shadow. And if you have a cool light, you're going to have a warm shadow. And the more you think about it, the more obvious it is. Like, warm implies that it's warmer than something else, and cold implies that it's colder than something else. So if I have an orange here and I want to go cooler, you know, I can desaturate this, I can bring it over here, and I can start going, you know, a lot cooler with that. So we've got our neutral gray backgrounds here, and I'm going to decide on the local value of the box. So maybe for this one, I'll just say this is my local value here, and then I'll change those as we go along. So let's pretend that in this we have a light source coming in from the right side, and I'll turn it at an angle so that none of these sides are hit the same amount by the light. Let's say we have a warm light source, and we're going to make it nice and warm, and the light side of our box, we're going to just make it very warm. Push it a little bit down here. And now remember, if I take this color and I go halfway between that value and black, and then I'm going to mess with my color and pull that down, because that's the half the black principle. The shadowed side, generally in direct sunlight, the shadowed side of your object is going to be halfway between your value, your local value of your object, and black. And then this third side in here, I'm just going to put in something that's sort of in between the two. So I just grab a little bit of that shadow, push it on top of the light side, and then that's just going to be my shadow, or my half kind of tone side color, the one that's being hit halfway in light. So there are my three sides right here. Let's go to a new example. Let's use the same one, except let's have a cool light source on it. We got this box, and then let's say our light source is blue. And here it is, coming from the same direction in here. And now let's take this, and we're going to cool it down quite a bit. So say we have this as our light side. Could even make it a little bit brighter. So this is our light side. It's being hit by that nice cool light. And then our shadowed side is going to be, we got this halfway to black, right about there. And then I'm just going to color sample that and bring it back down there. And I'm making this real warm, so maybe I'll bump that saturation up quite a lot. Nice, warm shadow side right there. And then our halfway point, I'm just going to make that just a little more saturated. But I'm going to come in here, color in that top side of the box. Maybe I'll just darken this up a tad. And that's totally fine. Like, you just place something down, and if you like it, then keep it. If you don't like it, adjust it. It's totally fine. We're going to go half to black, and I'll just put something in really quick. I won't even figure out exactly what the shadow is. So there's that one. I don't want that to connect up to the side. We will have a green box, and we'll make it a warm light. So let's just make this kind of extreme warm side of the box. Cool shadows. I'm going to cool this down a lot, and I'm going to go halfway to black. You know, you could really push this. And then maybe somewhere in between is going to be your half side. There we go. I might even push this into yellow and have a little bit of yellow in there. Push this into blue and just have a little bit of blue in there. There we go. So there are our 3 boxes. This one has a warm light source, this one has a cool light source, and then this one also has a warm light source, and it's just a different color. So how do we apply all of this stuff? Let's go into something a little bit more complicated. So I sketched out this thing right here. I put in a couple different local values right here, paint a little bit of a background in here so I can see what I'm doing. I'll just make a new layer real quick, and I'll just color in this whole object with its local value. Now maybe I'll put a warm light source on it. I'm just gonna bump this up the littlest bit, and I'll use the same lighting direction. I actually went ahead and just kind of sketched out where my shadows might be. The next one, so let's say that we got nice, cool shadowed side over here. I'm desaturating that. I'm really pushing it cooler, right? And one way that you can think about this is if you have a nice warm light or a warm object, you can just push blue on it as well and come in here and color sample this as well. I like going into purplish. I know that red pushes toward purple, but if I have a blue and I just push it right here and I color sample that, you'll see that this starts to, you'll see that on the right, my color's pushing all the way down into blue. I'm going to start coloring in some of my other local value. I was thinking maybe this thing right here could be red. Maybe these two things can be red as well. Maybe these two sides can be red as well. I haven't really thought about the design too much on this. This will be dark, and you want to, as you paint, you want to make sure that you're treating each one of these local values as its own thing, or else it'll start to get muddy. Push this up a little bit right here because it's being hit almost directly by that light perpendicular to it. This gonna come in here and add some shadows. So there is that. And now let's take this, go much cooler with it, and bring it down halfway to black. And here's this side. These values down here get really squished, but you want to try and keep them accurate. And I'm not adding any bounce light or anything yet. I'm just laying these in to start. This is going to have a little cast shadow on it and all that, but we can worry about that stuff later. Now we're going to think about our red. Halfway to black. Come down and cool it down quite a bit. And we'll just basically have that. We'll have this down here as well. I might just push it a little bit back up into red. There we go. And you really just have to look at it and see if you like what's going on. So if I turn my line work off, this is what we have so far. I'm going to make one new layer below and just add my shadow in. Again, I haven't spent a lot of time really figuring out exactly what this shadow value, or not value, the perspective of it would be, because this isn't a perspective lesson. This is a rendering lesson. For me, this is actually where the fun part really starts to begin, because I actually like rendering a lot, and it's fun to try and think of and figure out all the light sources and how all the bounce and ambient occlusion and everything works. So we're going to turn off our line work and check what we have. I actually really don't like this right here at all, and I think it's dumb, so I'm going to paint this out. Our block is starting to work a bit. I'm going to get a contact shadow in there. I'm just going to imply that this rounds a corner. This up here, I was thinking I might darken it a bit as well, just to match those cubes from above. Rotate this corner as well, and we'll fix all this later and make it look nice. There we go. And let's just bump this up real warm, real nice and warm, because we want this to look nice. This is the part that actually takes a while as well, because it's just a lot of rendering, and so if you don't have patience, you need to get some, because stuff like this takes quite a while. Okay, that's looking pretty nice. I will turn this off for now. And we're just going to render. I like to flip my canvas as well. These are facing up. We're going to get a little bit of, just a tad, of this sort of ambient occlusion in there. I kind of want the background of this darker. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to darken up the background of this. This ain't too important up here. I just wanted to read against the background. Okay, so now that we have all of this done, I'm going to go ahead and add a second light source, and that's going to be in the back. And I'll make it a nice cool light source back here, and I'm going to add this blue into the shadow. And it's going to stay pretty dark, but we're just going to get that filled a bit with that shadow. And it's the same with the shadow on the ground. This is going to really fill up this shadow here. So we're going to have the influence of that blue light in the shadow here. And that's also going to happen with this. So we're going to hit blue probably down there. And I'm just really trying to make it so each of my shadow colors for each of my local values is being influenced by that blue. So for example, this red in the shadow, I'm probably going to bring it even further down there towards blue and then desaturate it a bit because that's going to hit that red. So for example, I got red right here and I add blue to it, and what happens to it, it goes down into purple and pink and then blue, right? So I'm going to be getting that happening as well. Let's just add a little halo around this. Maybe I'll make it blue, just so it's easier to see exactly what this light color is. And all of this actually back here is also going to be affected by that blue. So I'm just going to lightly change a lot of this and just put some blue in there just to get that feeling working. There we go. So that blue is filling the shadow. And now in the rendering, I like to start to nudge things around. So I'll make a little bit more warm influence on the left. I'll make a little bit more cool influence on the right. Depending on what the reflectivity of this material is, you may end up getting a little bit of a highlight from the blue right there. Could even be a little bit on the edge right here. Rim light, like, curves around. It's not a line. So if there was rim light on this, it wouldn't be a line. It would look more like that. It would kind of come in and then fade out. It doesn't just create a line. So just keep that in mind. I don't really think there would be much rim light on this because the light tends to have to be very close to directly behind it, and it has to kind of hit it at an angle where the light creeps around. So, but we could have potentially this sort of thing going on if this is a reflective surface. If it's not, then we'll probably just take that out. That's nice. But I actually do think I want to keep this here. Like that. And then maybe just a tad. Clean up this shadow. A lot of this is just going to be cleanup now. We're just going to keep cleaning and rendering as time goes on. So I'm not going to go super detailed with this rendering, but I did want to sort of show how different colored lights interact with each other. Now the colored light on the front is quite warm. It's probably something along the lines of this. And then we'll get that. So that's coming in from the right, and then our other light is coming in from the left. And I might just grab this and get some of that influence as well. So there I added various cut lines and stuff around here as well. There we go. And then that perspective goes back inside of there. I'm going to influence the ground with some of this warm as well. Not a lot, just a tad. Then one last thing about shadows is shadows do not overlap and multiply unless you have more than one light source. So this back would create a shadow. For example, this backlight right here, it's going to create a shadow going forward. And this front light is going to create a shadow going backward, which is this one right here. So the blue light would actually cast a separate shadow. So this shadow is going to come up here. I'm drawing the light spot, and I'll explain what I'm doing in just a second. And then this is the dark spot, the shadowed spot, and that may just be a tad darker right there. Almost the same, just a very subtle. And a lot of the time you won't even be able to see this, but I'm just doing it for the sake of an example. Okay, so we have areas A, B, and C. This is A, this is B, and this is C. A is the blue light, and that's it. B is the warm light plus the blue light, because both of those lights are hitting that area. And then C is only the warm light. So you actually have 3 different areas on the ground that are being affected by 3 different lights. And you'll notice that it actually looks pretty good. It feels right. And a lot of this is just about making sure that things feel good and feel correct. And a lot of that is just based on understanding. So there's that. You can actually see this line right here, right there, and right there. So this is the shadow being cast by the blue light. So I did want to mention that. The perspective of this box is a little bit off, but whatever. Don't matter. And then say we'd want to come in here, and I don't know what this object is exactly. And by the way, the top of the box would also basically be hit by both of these lights, it looks like. But it's going to be hit by them at a really shallow angle. I'm going to make the right side a little bit warmer, and the left side is just influenced a tad by that cool. Let me go ahead and I kind of want to add something to the top. A button, maybe? Maybe this thing has a button on it. And it's got... I might just paint this in pretty rough. See, I'm just using the colors that I've already picked, and I'm adding like a little red sticky outy bit on top. And this is going to be a button, and it's going to have a little dip in it. So you're going to be able to press this button, whatever it does, on this machine. I'm going to flip my canvas. And then this button is going to be a little bit reflective. So we're going to get highlight. And then we're also actually going to get a highlight of this blue on the back. So a specular, which is this, is a reflection of your light source itself. There we go. That looks pretty good to me. And that button needs an area to sit in. So I'm just going to add a little area around it. There we go. So now you got a little button on top that you can press. It's kind of cool. These are all off, but it don't matter. Maybe I'll just darken back in here a bit more, just to get that reading a little bit better. There, that looks pretty good. And I might round these corners as well. I already rounded some of them, but I want to round more. And I could go on for hours rendering out this thing, making it super detailed, polished, adding all the little highlights everywhere, but that's not really the point of this video. I just wanted to introduce light sources. I don't really know what's happening right here. I'd have to figure out the design of that area. Maybe I'll just say it ends here. Not a design lesson, so I won't spend long on that. But I would like to add maybe little indications of construction, like how this thing is put together. And I always like trying to describe the form. Just like that. It's very enjoyable to try and describe the form with these little pieces. Make sure you get those little wraps as well. There we go. So this is going to be the final rendering for this lesson. I hope that it was useful. And don't forget to keep an eye out for this 100 portraits challenge that I'm doing. Every 10 portraits, I'll be uploading a video. And don't forget to keep an eye out for the Box Lord show, where I'll be bringing on different artists and having them talk and share their experience and everything. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.